I would like to now call to order the Housing Urban Development Zoning Committee for this evening, January 15th. My apologies to folks in the community and everyone who's here that has come. I know your all's time is very valuable and we are running a bit behind, so I want to apologize for that. Madam Clerk, may you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Vice Chair Saunier.
Present.
Alderman Browning. Alderman Aldridge.
Present.
Chairwoman Clark Hubbard. President Green. 5 present, you have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will now begin. I'm going to pass it over to Alderwoman Schweitzer to Vice Chair for a second.
Thank you. Alderwoman Saunier, you are recognized on Board Bill number 153. Alderwoman, you are recognized on Board Bill 153.
Thank you, Alderwoman Schweitzer, and I guess Pro Temp Chair Schweitzer for having me today. I want to just first start by again thanking community members for being present for this conversation today, and make sure that I give a reminder that if you intend to give public comment, you do want to make sure that you sign in on the form that is on the table to the left. That will be the form that our clerk uses to call folks in order. Even though we only have one board bill, 153, on our agenda, I did want to also address that only sponsors of bills can call them to be on the hearing. However, I do understand that they will probably comment on the other bill, and I think that's completely appropriate since this is the evening hearing and folks in the community are present. I just wanted to be very quick and make sure yesterday's hearing went very long and we didn't do committee amendments until the end. So I'm just going to very quickly walk through the amendments that we made to the bill yesterday. Yesterday, Board Bill 153 had a few key essential amendments. The first one being that we did.
Please, in the audience, please refrain from speaking while there are other speakers. It's very distracting to everyone else in the room. Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. We made amendments yesterday in the hearing very late, so I just wanted to make sure that I speak to those very quickly and then get right to public comment. The first key amendment that was made was to add the word license and some other language to indicate that for child care workers, if the bill is to be passed, it is the expectation that it is licensed child care workers who would be given those services. The second amendment, and that amendment was given by Alderman Cone. The second amendment that was made was by Alderman Aldridge, which added some prioritization language for North City, downtown, and Southeast City to the bill in order to, after some conversations, and again, just trying to move us a little bit closer to a middle ground so that we can get some as many of us as possible agree on. And then the third amendment that was made to the bill was made by President Green, and it was specific to the child care piece as well, which basically amended the child care proposal to be that it will be piloted just to begin for city workers. And then after that passes, in order to expand beyond city workers, there would have to be a operational plan made via resolution that will have to come before the board and go through our process. So again, the changes to 153 are that the portion for city workers are now, the portion for childcare is now just for city workers. So there's an operational plan submitted, that there has been prioritization language that will make the prioritization of funding and projects be for North Side, downtown, and Southeast City, and that we wanted to make it clear that any child care allocations that are given will be for licensed providers. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. When she is back at her seat, we will move on to public comment. And as the Alderwoman said, it'll be based on the order that is signed up over there on the side. So please do make sure you're signed up. And I will pass it back to Vice Chair Saunier.
Thank you. Just as a reminder for public comment, when you come up, give us your name, your ward if you're the city of St. Louis. When you do sign the form, it will say opposed or against, but you can also put undecided if you're not sure. And can we do one swearing in for everyone in the room. Okay, so if you're here to testify and you're in the room, can you raise your hand? Um, do you promise that what you're about to say is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you so much. And we can begin with the first speaker, and we will alternate between in-person and online.
Our first,
And 3 minutes per comment. And again, your name, ward, and 3 minutes.
Robert Thomas, in support.
Yes, my name is Robert Thomas.
Make sure it's on set.
It'll be green when it's on.
It's on.
There you go.
I live in the 8th Ward, 12th Precinct. And my question is, so far as the settlement with the Rams, will there be any money provided for seniors for home repairs?
We don't do back and forth, but there is, in 153, there is some language for home repairs. It's not specific to seniors, but there is a budget under the housing fund for home repairs.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Thank you.
Speaker online is Linda with CBN STL.
Yes, it's Nguyen. Good evening, members of the HUD's committee, and thank you for the invitation and today's opening for public comment. My name is Linda Nguyen, and I'm proud to serve as the executive director of the CBN network here in St. Louis. I'm here to highlight the transformative work of community development corporations, also known as CDCs, and why the proposed $100 million investment in this board for Community Development Innovation Fund activities is critical to their efforts, and why these funds should be dedicated to CDCs in the city of St. Louis. Historically, the city has provided operational support for staffing, and this financial support should be restored. What makes CDC special is that they're part of the neighborhoods that they serve. These are organizations that don't just step in with prepackaged solutions. They actually listen, they learn, and they partner with residents to make sure the changes that they bring about meet the real needs of the neighborhood. They create opportunities for developing affordable housing, supporting small businesses. In neighborhoods across St. Louis, they have turned vacant lots and abandoned buildings into homes, shops, and spaces that attract investment and give the community new energy. But this impact goes deeper than just the economics. CDCs have strengthened the social fabric of many neighborhoods in St. Louis. They bring people together, they build trust, and create spaces for collaboration. By connecting with residents, local government, and private partners, CDCs make sure everyone has a seat at the table. These relationships make revitalization efforts more sustainable and ensure that they reflect the diverse voices of the community and not just the selective few. What I admire most about CDCs after working with them for the last 10 years is their commitment to equity. They work to ensure that development benefits the people who live in these neighborhoods for generation and not just the new folks who join. They've been driving force in addressing the systemic disinvestment that they have held community back for decades, and advocate for inclusive policy as they uplift community members. And we don't have to look far to see the results of their work. CDCs, and I hope you get the chance to hear from North Newstead Association, Northside Community Housing, and Cornerstone, who are working in North City, have been pivotal in creating and preserving over 400 units of affordable housing here in St. Louis. These homes support longtime residents and attract new ones, while also setting the stage for a brighter and more equitable future. CDCs are more than just about revitalizing the buildings. They're about empowering the people, building connections, and creating places where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And this is a great opportunity. I think that with the Rams dollars, this $100 million allocated toward Community Development Innovation Fund, this is an opportunity to really expand CDC's impact and make sure that they have the support needed to make long-term sustainable growth in our neighborhoods. I urge the HUD's committee to support this investment advancement and for the vital work of the CDCs in St. Louis. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the effort and happy to make any questions before or after this meeting. Thank you.
Perfect timing. And if everyone online could hit the little raise your hand, I kind of get you all sworn at the same time. So just have your hand raised, and you're agreeing that what you're about to say is the truth, the whole truth, and but the truth. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tim O'Neill in opposition. Supposed to be green.
Green, when it's on, it'll be green.
Okay, we're on. All right, my name is Tim O'Neill. I live in the first ward. Excuse me. I have lived all but about 6 or 7 years in the city. As I understand, things are in flux here. There's the Bill 131, and this is officially 156. As they're written, I am against both of them for the following reasons. All right, the Rams settlement is the definition of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, where, you know, Cronky's not going to do that again. Now, the 153, I think, has far too many social services, not enough infrastructure. I'll get to that in a moment. And the other one is way too much about downtown and certain districts. There's 62 square miles of St. Louisans. We deserve help too. Now, one of the things I really want you to work on more is our major streets. 3 years ago, you guys approved a big infrastructure bill that included Kings Highway, Jefferson, Grand, I can't remember what else. Half of North Kings Highway has been done. That's fair. We got to start somewhere. South Kings Highway is still a washboard jarring mess to drive, and it's been 3 years. There are many other streets like that. I drove up Grand and Jefferson today. I haven't seen any improvement to Grand, north or south, and there's some improvement on Jefferson up where the NGA is. So I don't know if that's your work or if it's part of the NGA. But we are way behind in maintaining our streets, water systems, other public works. We just are. And we have to take some of this money and catch up. And then you can proceed with a capital program. But there's no way to do an annual capital project in 4 blocks of Kings Highway and in 6 blocks of Kings Highway. That is the busiest street we have, and it's a mess. So the water system could use some money. Witness the Salisbury hole. One thing, and I kind of get off on this too much. Poor Alderman Schweitzer has heard too much of this. Our parks have way too many tall, dead trees. And one of these days, it's going to fall on a 3-year-old, and nobody's going to like that. Now, I realize we don't have enough people in forestry, so you bundle up projects and you bid them out. There must be 40 in Carondelet Park where I live, and my favorite tree is a tall, dead cottonwood you can't miss. It's on River de Pere, north of Gravois. When that thing tumbles down, it's going to fall across the pavement. Consider the risk. So anyway, to the matter of the social services, some of them are very good, although I really am opposed to the idea of a fund that does childcare and post-secondary assistance for city employees only. There are all sorts of people in the city. I don't think you have the money to get into that sort of thing. Please concentrate on the core issues of a city. Public works, public safety, public health. That's what you're here for. We didn't ask you to do child care programs. We asked you to fix the streets and collect the garbage. Please, put those bills together and modify them considerably. And downtown should not get all the money. That's too much the other way. Anyway, thank you much.
Thank you for your input.
Our next
and
speaker is
today.
Elaine Laura, undecided.
Thank you, and I am so elated. So many folks in the audience. Good job, St. Louis. Well, today I want to be frank and honest and true. I know you are good people, and you want to do your best by St. Louis. I know this. And you got to be really strong to stand up for us and correct nearly 2 centuries of flat rate billing. 200 years, nearly. We're about 8 years short. I wrote you this in the beginning of December, but I want to read it once again. In April 1912, presented to the Board of Aldermen at that time, in changing a flat rate, in charging a flat rate, it is assumed that all customers in each class do use the same amount of water. The Water Works official, that was Kurt Scobie, I forgot, Mr. Patel, knows that this is not so. But in establishing the rate, he guesses at a happy medium between what the small user should pay and what the larger user should pay. The result is the small consumer and the careful consumer pay for more than they get. The excess pay going to offset the overdrafts of the large consumers and the wasteful consumers. It is apparent that this is very unfair and that the charge should be based upon quantity. Now you got to stand up. Thank you, ma'am. You got to stand up. Amend that bill and include just $1 million to establish a pilot program to install meters. Megan, you know that's right. Do it. Amend the bill. And I'll vote for either one of them. Put this amendment in either one of them. Although I'm like him, I think we are giving money away.
Thank you for your comment.
Our next speaker is Judith Arnold. In support.
Thank you for having me this evening. I do stand in support of this bill. I'm here merely to emphasize the infrastructure portion of the bill needs to support Delmar Avenue that separates North from South St. Louis, known as the Divide. And it also, with infrastructure support, will assist in the revitalization of 7 neighborhoods that border the Strip. I also stand in support of the Greenway on the Holiamont tracks, which could be used by the infrastructure money as well. Again, 7 neighborhoods north of Delmar will have an opportunity to revitalize as a result of Delmar and the Greenway on the Holiamont tracks. So I'm being very specific this evening. Thank you.
Ms. Arnold, what ward are you from?
11th Ward.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Aaron Line.
Was that Aaron Dohan?
Yes.
Okay, hey, hi. So I'm speaking in support of this bill specifically for the money allocated for improvements to the water infrastructure around the city. We had a lot of, I live in the 4th Ward and in Lindenwood Park, and in our area, we had a lot of water mains breaking over the summer last year and in previous summers to that. Also, there's been a lot of work to water infrastructure in Dogtown as well. And so I just want to make sure that my voice is heard in terms of any bill moving forward, that it includes improvements to water infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Yolanda Williams in opposition.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you all for your hard work, aldermen, everybody. I just wanted to bring to your attention
Don't forget to state what ward you're from.
11 and 12, and also your ward. I'm speaking for 3 wards because I have family members in all of them, but mainly 11 and 12. The bill has something about 70 million for housing and 30 million for neighborhoods. I am not sure what that means for wards 11 and 12, because as you know, we are underserved wards. We have more abandoned houses in our wards, just underserved. I've said this at every meeting I've been to, and I'm really tired of saying it, and I hope that something in this bill specifies that these underserved wards are included in this 70 and 30 million, because you have nothing for the blighted buildings. And most of those buildings in 11 and 12 are LRA buildings, and it's tearing our neighborhood down. I'm excited about some things in this bill. Childcare, we need that. We really do. Post-secondary education, we need that for our people. Workforce development, our city workers need more money. However you're going to do that, excited about that. But please, 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 do not leave here today without specifying in this bill that the underserved wards are going to be touched, period. When we say citywide, we don't know if North City is going to affect that. She just talked about the Delmore Divide. We're left out over and over and over and over again. I'm here speaking for a whole lot of people. I'm with the Penrose Neighborhood Association. We have a lot of people come to our meetings every first Saturday, and they say the same thing. They're disappointed in the city because these houses aren't revitalized. We're not getting any new houses, and they see money going other places. And the last thing I want to say is, please do a comparator of the different neighborhoods. Again, when you look at South City, you look at Central West End, you look at all these neighborhoods that are thriving and have many businesses and are doing well. Think about North City and what we need. Take a look at how many houses that we have that are derelict, that are torn down, that are next to a 90-year-old person, and add something in the bill to specifically say that it's going to go to our underserved neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Karen in support.
Sorry. Good evening. Thank you. I appreciate your time and what you're doing. I am here in support of the ECC and the impact it has on the workforce. I had the pleasure of listening virtually yesterday for 3 hours, and I listened to businesses and the housing and infrastructure, but the connection they all have is truly early childhood education, quality early childhood education. An article that I brought, and I wanted to read a segment from Duke Sanford, a research brief from January of 2024. Despite the crucial role that high-quality early care and education plays in children's development, its necessity for parents to maintain employment, and its ultimate impact on the state's economic well-being, ECC consistently grapples with chronic underfunding and significant workforce challenges. It's difficult to disentangle access to quality care and the workforce because they are interdependent. A supported, well-compensated, and well-trained workforce is necessary ingredient in achieving improved access to high-quality ECC. It's so important for the vitalization of the city to make sure that we provide quality education for all of our families. And it's been proven that a child that attends a quality education center early on in their years, they are more likely to complete high school, to gain a better job, and to avoid teen pregnancy. So there's so many positives. And again, I believe this is the thread that holds everything together. And I apologize, I'm with Ward 6 with Cornerstone Center for Early Learning. We're the first accredited early childhood center in the city of St. Louis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Samantha March online. Okay, I'll go to the next person. I'll go to the next person online, which is Constance, New North Side.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Constance Sue, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of the North Newstead Association. The North Newstead Association is a community development corporation dedicated to serving and supporting North St. Louis communities and residents through quality, reliable housing, community building programs, and economic development opportunities since 1993. I'm here to conditionally support Board Bill 153 under the Transform STL Act and to advocate for the explicit inclusion of CDCs in this critical funding under the development bucket. For over 32 years, North Newstead Association has been deeply embedded in the community, providing affordable housing, supporting our senior resident leaders as they age in place, improving infrastructure, and addressing safety and vacancy concerns. Each year, we serve over 1,000 households through our programs with the aim of rebuilding a thriving North St. Louis made up of engaged residents living in healed and safe communities with economic opportunities for all. CDCs are unique because we operate at the intersection of housing and community development. As the boots on the ground organization, we are able to quickly pivot to meeting evolving community needs, whether that's getting masks out during the pandemic or supporting tenants in addressing housing instability or facilitating reinvestment into underserved areas. However, our ability to do this vital work has been hindered by significant funding cuts, the increased administrative hurdles of accessing existing resources, and the overall increasing cost of doing business in light of lower revenue resulting from decreased rent collections that plague us CDCs that also serve as affordable housing providers. Historically, operational support for CDCs was available, and it played a critical role in enabling us to sustain staffing and deliver much needed quality community responsive programs. Reintroducing this support is not a new concept, but a restoration of what allowed CDCs to thrive and stabilize neighborhoods across St. Louis. Board Bill 153 represents a transformative $100 million investment, but without a carve-out for CDCs, this bill risks overlooking the organizations that are best positioned to deliver long-term, resident-led, neighborhood-transforming results. I urge you to amend the bill to explicitly name established CDCs with a demonstrated track record as funding recipients and to allocate capacity-building resources for our operational needs. Our staff want to do this work and they believe in our mission. We want to be able to pay our staff and to keep the lights on. Your support will allow us to more easily do the mission-driven work of creating vibrant communities for all St. Louisans. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Tabitha Hunt in opposition.
Hello, I'm from the 11th Ward now, but I've been the ward of the Skinker de Bolivar neighborhood and South City. I've only been in the 11th Ward for the last 3 years. I'm against this affordable child care and this post-secondary education. I myself raised 4 kids. I didn't have no support. I figured it out. I worked 2 or 3 jobs to support mine. So why are we taking the money to go up for childcare when in North City, every other house is derelict, abandoned, or crumbling? So we kind of worry about somebody's kids when before this, we took care of our family. We need to focus on all of the problems in North City. I can say that because I lived in South City for 25 years as an adult. It wasn't nothing in South City that we asked for that we didn't get. I've been in North City. I've been to all of these meetings. We can't get anything. I asked for speed bumps when Mohammed was the alderman. It's been approved, but we still don't have them. I've asked for a house that's condemned. It has drug traffic. It has rodents. It's a problem on my block. I was a block captain. I've talked to Urban League. I've talked to the city. I can't get that tore down. But we worried about childcare. When I have rodents coming into my house because of 2 houses down, the house is on its bare legs. I spoke with Alderman Keys about it. She wants to try to get it stabilized. There's no way. It's no roof. You got trees growing out of the house. That can't be stabilized. I asked her, talked to her last June. We coming up on June again. I haven't heard anything from her about this house. And when I call her, she says, I don't just serve Penrose. My ward is big. We know that, but you're not doing anything. I drive that area. I mean, our property value is horrible. I sold a house that I had a mortgage on to buy a house cash, but it's horrible over there. So we need some attention in North City. Anything north of Delmar needs great attention. However, between Kings Highway and Natural Bridge and Grand, it really needs attention. And 270, I mean, it's blighted. We go to Central West End, South County, West County to eat. We don't have nothing over there to eat. We don't have a Chick-fil-A. We don't have a Starbucks. We don't have anything. We have to go outside of our community to just enjoy the evening. That shouldn't be. Nobody else have to leave their neighborhood to have a nice meal or sit down and have a nice soda or coffee. They don't. Central West End has it all. South City had it all. Skinker de Bolivar has it all. But North City, there's nothing. I'm trying to open a small business. I can't even get help. But then they got this grant going through SLDC. It's giving money to buildings that's not even existing. Someone got 1.5 million on a building that when you go by there, there's no building. So how did they get $1,500,000 when there's no building? And they gave an address, like there's a building. And when you go down there and you see other ones, it's a lot of them got their grant money and there's no buildings. But North City has nothing.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rosalind Calhoun. Undecided.
Good evening. I'm not going to take your time, but I'm here as a representative from Ward 12 as well. And a lot that has already been said is so true, and I'll say ditto to that. We ask that you really take a look and hear what is being said today, because our communities are very important to us. Our housing is very important to us, and to be able to thrive with businesses and having funds to assist with that is very needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paula Brioni Vickers online. Okay, I go. Okay, I'll go to Hank Weber in opposition.
Happy New Year and congratulations, President Green. I'm not here either in opposition or quite support, especially with the changes in the bill. I'm here to make really one point, which is I'm here to support a very substantial investment in downtown, provided it is matched by GSL in the private sector. For the past 5 years, I've been leading a research project studying the 50 largest cities and 50 largest metros in the United States. And been looking at who's most successful on 3 criteria. Are people getting wealthier? Are those cities growing? And are you shrinking black-white income gradients, income differentials? By the way, St. Louis is not doing very well on any of those. But one of the lessons of the work is when you look at the industrial heartland and you look at the non-coastal South, Atlanta, Nashville, Cleveland, St. Louis, etc., the places that are growing, the places that are shrinking income differentials by race, the places that are growing per capita income, in almost all cases have very strong downtowns. They have a place that is attractive to where the region gathers, and they have a place that is attractive to the outside world. That does not mean that we should just give a blank check. We need a real plan for developing downtown and to set very hard priorities. And we've never done that. We've never had a successful downtown plan, at least in the 16 years I've lived here. My hope is a commitment of resources will force people to do that, especially if you say the resources can't be released without a comprehensive plan. So that's a suggestion. Nor do I think it's a simple problem to solve. But on the other hand, downtown's dramatically worse than it was 10 years ago. If we don't do something, that's a real problem. Let me end with, I think there's a lot of people who don't believe downtown can be better and that you're throwing money down a rat hole. I lived in Nashville in the early 1980s, and there was nothing happening there. And now there's a set of skyscrapers, etc. Kansas City had 5,000 people living downtown 25 years ago. It now has 35,000 people downtown. And it's providing about 4 times as much support for city services as it did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Stephanie online?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Stephanie Coe. I'm a resident of Ward 8, and I'm here to provide testimony in support of Board Bill 153, testifying both as a resident but also as a representative of preservation of affordable housing. We're a nonprofit organization working on the Clinton Peabody redevelopment, and also as a board member of Community Builders Network. Again, in support specifically of the investment towards development and even more specifically, affordable housing development. I've worked in community development and affordable housing for many years now in St. Louis. And we know that St. Louis City renters are having even more of a rent burden than they have in the past. I've even worked customer service for our previous affordable housing organization, and we would get dozens of calls every hour of residents we honestly couldn't help because we didn't have those housing units to serve them. At the same time, a lot of these affordable housing organizations are competing for very limited resources to really meet this high demand. And so really excited to see an opportunity to increase funding for affordable housing, especially when in tandem with other neighborhood revitalization efforts. For example, having opportunities to pair housing development funds with street infrastructure funds too, because they do really go hand in hand. And I think this is even more important now with the risk of losing federal funding opportunities with the new administration, and really having resources to support areas, especially like Clinton Peabody and that neighborhood. And then I would also like to share, just as a board member of Community Builders Network, just echoing some of those prior comments from some of my other colleagues, that it's really essential to have support for local CDCs. That's one thing I also saw missing from the proposed bill. CDCs are really at the core of a lot of this neighborhood revitalization work, all this affordable housing work as well. And it's really not possible to get all this done when some of these CDCs are struggling to keep their doors open, their lights on, and pay their staff. So we really need to see more infrastructure support for CDCs, more operational funding, and then also just really recognizing the place for Community Builders Network in particular to be a voice with the Community Development Innovation Funds, because they really do play a large role in convening and sharing a shared voice for participating community development place-based organizations in the city. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And Dwayne Jolly.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you all today. On behalf of the St. Louis Integrated Health Network and the community health centers here in the city, some of who are online and in the room, I would like to thank the Board of Aldermen for the opportunity to provide public comment on the allocation of the RAM settlement funding under Board Bill 153. We also extend our gratitude to the city and you all for the allocation of the ARPA funds that we received to help address our COVID-19 relief efforts earlier this year. And I'm reminded by the quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, "Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhumane, in part because it often results in physical death." And one of the things we're looking for as part of the community health centers is access to healthcare. If we don't have access to healthcare, we don't have the ability to do anything else that's mentioned in the bill. It's not an either or, but a both and how do we support good health in our community? While the ARPA funding was critical for building new clinical sites and building renovations, the health centers still require infrastructure funding for planned preventative maintenance. Frequently, our community health centers provide services with dated equipment, some of which need repair or replacement, and on occasion they are unable to provide much-needed healthcare to city residents when the equipment fails, such as the HVA systems, procedural equipment, testing instruments, all of which fail on occasion and become inoperable. We encourage the city to invest a portion of the RAM settlement in an ongoing fund to support infrastructure development and ensure critical healthcare services are available to our citizens in the amount of about $3.5 million. In addition to infrastructure support, an adequate workforce is critical to the delivery of healthcare services. And the St. Louis healthcare sector is experiencing a critical workforce shortage with an estimated gap of over 1,500 workers needed to fill key roles, according to a recent study of the Missouri Economic Research and Information Center. And as we look ahead, we also urge city to invest a portion of the RAM settlement funding for workforce development with a specific focus on health careers. And this strategic allocation is critical to addressing the persistent challenges faced by healthcare workforce in our region, and particularly our community health centers. And therefore, we are requesting an investment of about $25 million over 5 years. And to add a layer onto that, we're talking about socioeconomic mobility and economic development. This sort of investment allows for individuals in our communities to get much needed jobs and then get upskilled or get even jobs that pay more, and allows for people to sort of transform their economic status within our communities and perhaps contribute even further into our thriving city. So all that I ask is for you all to sort of consider, how do we make healthcare a part of this movement and this investment? And again, my name is Ndwali Jolly. I represent St. Louis Integrated Health Network. I'm in the 9th Ward. That's where I live and reside. My organization resides in the 10th Ward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jeff Winzerling online.
Hello, I'm Jeff Winzerling. I live with my family in the Central West
Can you
End.
pull the mic up if you need to, but I just want to make sure people at home can hear you.
Okay, we'll see how it goes. I live with my family in the Central West End. Before that, I lived in Soulard for a decade, so I've been in the city for close to 30 years. I'm also a real estate developer. I came to St. Louis in the 90s to be involved in urban redevelopment here. It's my mission in life. I just want to make a few points today. I hope at least one of them is somehow useful to you. One about the water spending. It seems like that's become the consensus. Both bills now have $40 to $50 million, $55 million for water infrastructure. I saw a bit of the commissioner's presentation yesterday on how they would use the water, the advantages they would get from having a block of money to then bond, then used for meeting some of their large capital needs. He also provided the data in his slides, how many accounts there are about 93,000 accounts, what the average bill in the city is, $104 a month, per quarter, what the average bill in the county is, $172 a quarter, and he basically made the argument for not giving him any of this money. If the city of St. Louis simply raised the water rate to match the average in St. Louis County, it's a $68 increase, $17 a month, times the 93,000 accounts, the water division could raise the $50 million that you're talking about giving to it from this fund in 2 years. You know your colleagues better than I do, but if the Board of Aldermen could approve a water rate increase, you could put $50 million of this money back to these other uses. Number two, what are those other uses? It's been noted, it seems like there's a dichotomy between the people-focused spending and some of the place-focused spending. There's a reason why higher education support and early childhood support are not frequently features of municipal government. It's because although investing in people sounds nice, those people can just leave, as many people in the city of St. Louis do. As the population continues to drop, we're proving that people are just leaving. So you spend money on education, you spend money on early childhood, those beneficiaries may not be St. Louisans next year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next speaker is Paula Brioni Vickers online.
Hi, my name is Paula Brian Vickers, and I'm a resident of the 12th Ward.
I am here in support of, sorry, I'm here in support of Board Bill 153. It's heartbreaking really to hear the conversations around not caring about our children of St. Louis. It's also heartbreaking and ironic to hear people reference the past and how we do things. But in referencing the past of how childcare works, it doesn't work in that way. Like we hear about the struggle of people, we hear about how working 2 and 3 jobs, and that's really not okay. And we see that when our children grow up and we have these issues with our teens every summer. We have issues with our crime. We have issues with people not wanting to stay in St. Louis because they've had bad experiences. Investing in early childhood gives us the opportunity to keep these businesses open. When we talk about people not being around to like clear the streets and do all the work, people that work have children. Like many people have children. And if schools are closed, then you have to stay home with your kids. You have to take off work. And guess who's taking off work? The people that are fixing the city. And so for the city to be able to show up and to keep it running, people have to be able to have someone to care for their children. We saw that during COVID when people considered early childhood an essential task, an essential workforce, when our nurses needed to go to work, when our businesses and our first responders needed to go to work. And ECU was really the only place that stayed open at the school space. They were essential workers, and now it's like we don't need you anymore, and so we're going to disregard you. And so it's so important that this bill go forward in support of early childhood education, and I really hope that it doesn't be taken out. And I really hope that we can start having conversations around how we as a community can care for our children and how that benefits our community as a whole. We talk about people leaving, well, businesses leave too, but we don't stop investing in business. So I just really hope that we can have the conversation of what it looks like to take a risk and care for our children, and knowing that that does support public health, it does support public safety, it does support education, all of the things that our municipality, our older people are supposed to care about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Todd.
Good evening. Just a couple of maybe suggestions or recommendations.
Excuse me, Todd, could you give me your last name?
Norman, Norman.
In the ward that you're from, please?
I'm not sure. I live in North Newstead in West Pine.
I think that's the 11th ward.
Okay. Yeah, maybe a couple of recommendations or suggestions. And as far as the funds, I don't know what the plans are for that area from downtown toward, which would be 13th Street. It turns into Florissant. That would be a good area to develop. North City, you can't really do anything in those areas without a safety plan. And I've been working on that, if anybody would like to talk about that. No shopping. We need that area would be good for shopping, restaurants, and other shops. The streets, the signs for the streets, we need to put them on the right side, opposite corner, so people can see them. I drive Uber. They're very hard to see. So we could maybe do something, about that. Safety is the key. West side, north side needs to upgrade the safety of that area. Like I said, and there's something that we can do if we just get together and work out a plan for that. Like I said, that area was good. Florissant, 13th Street. And I think both the bills are good if we just put them together and work some out. And like I said, that area would be good for shops. I'm looking at a bookstore, a coffee shop, and then you can, branch out from there and make the whole city good. Some other developers can come in along with you and help that, area, grow and be really good, be definitely a good tax base for the city. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
We have Ray Cummings online.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
And once again, I'm coming to you from Barnes Hospital, but I have to be here to say what I have to say. Number one, these things didn't happen by chance. Those of you that like to Google the Team 4 plan, and it'll tell you what was planned for North St. Louis all the time, so that it would eventually look like Beirut. It's not a random act. Secondly, there's nobody that's not for child care. It's very important because our children are our future. I've come to this committee and this board and anybody that listens, bringing them information that over $200 million has been withheld from Black children and poor children. Although the report talks about the children, those children are part of families. So the same thing goes for those families. For the sake of downtown and other things, they have had to suffer what they have to suffer. And then we have other people come in like the Opportunity Trust and We Power, and they can name something that people are sympathetic to, but it's just a business venture for them. We are concerned at Local 420 about the African Americans in the neighborhood that are taking care of kids. I mean, these for-profit daycares, they're on their own. I'm talking about Mama June's daycare and stuff like that. We have set up a plan to provide them with professional development to help the kids that come through there be some of the best in the world. We also talk about 0 to 3. I worked at Vashon High School for 30 years. We have run a 0 to 3 program for 30 years in that school. Only thing I want to be mindful of is not putting these entrepreneurs in our neighborhoods out of business. But it's time to quit talking about it. There's not a single person that when it came out about that $200 million withheld from families, poor and Black families, people were like, oh, well, I didn't know that. And then they don't say anything else about it. They act like it didn't happen. Everyone there knows that we owe for the sins of our fathers and our mothers. And what was done to those people needs to be corrected. And this Rams windfall is the place to start. Let's quit playing games and get down to helping rebuild this city. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Walter McKinney Jr.
My name is Walter McKinney Jr. I'm representing the...
Wait until you get to the mic to speak, please, so that the people at home can hear you as well.
I'm Walter McKinney Jr. Actually, I'm representing the 18th Ward. I just came down to take a look at the ward bill and the economics in St. Louis and try to deliver some recommendations. I also run an investment firm. So it's one of the recommendations is St. Louis has to take a longer term approach, especially with this. This $250 million is transforming if you use it the right way. And one of the things we noticed that 501c3s may get principal, part of the principal amount. 501c3s have an ROI of 0. So the return on investment to 501c3 is 0. And because of that, we should be paying them out of the interest earned from the principal. So there's some basic things like that in the wealth management space that we do that we know that the city needs to do. The city doesn't have sufficient housing, sufficient tax revenue. So the tip of the spear or the focus of main effort needs to be creating housing in the north side. And that can be done. We also need to take a longer-term approach. So we need to take and look at a charitable giving fund or donor advised fund. And we need to find $100 million to go in there that'll generate $500,000 a month to the city. Then you can start developing. That way you close the wealth gap. If you close the wealth gap, crime goes this way, down. The wealth gap is wider now than when Mike Brown was killed. When the wealth gap is widening, crime goes this way. The 2002 World Bank study is very clear, and 10 other studies since, that as long as that wealth gap is widening, crime will go this way. So I think we need to take a longer-term view. I serve at my firm's convenience, but if this city should call, my firm and I will answer the call. I'm a Vashonite like the gentleman, and a Marine too, yet I'm a Marine. But I hope we take a longer-term view of this transformative money so that we can put it to work to make it create revenue so it lasts forever. That's what we do at investment firms. So please, whoever the leadership is, please, and I know Madam President is very thoughtful about that. So whoever we are, whoever the leaders are, wealth, this kind of money transforms everything forever, forever. So let's be mindful of that and know that housing, the development of housing in North St. Louis is the tip of the spear. It generates tax revenue, it generates jobs, it generates all of that. So spending $100 million somewhere else on fixing up the street, better focus some money to that. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Excuse me, you said the 18th ward? We only have 14 wards. What neighborhood do you reside in?
No, they reside, I have rental in the 18th ward, was 18th ward, 4200 block in Enright Avenue.
I think that's the 12th ward.
That's 12th.
Thank you.
We have CJ online.
Good evening. Once again, thank you all so much for the platform. I'll be very brief. I love the concentration on the vacant homes. I really didn't get to say that the other day, the vacant and abandoned homes. I love the fact we want more homeowners in our underprivileged areas. We realize that we really don't have access to buying homes or even to learn the process, as me myself is unfortunately going through the same thing. But when I heard people say create housing development, most housing that is being created in those areas that they say are affordable, those people are at least making $50,000 a year, and we know that's not happening in the hood. And I also heard lower barriers to development. That worries me because does that mean more tips and tax abatements that take away from our education systems that we're steady trying to help build, which also takes away from our families? When we say wraparound services, yes, I agree with everyone who has said that. And it should start from the beginning of conception, correct? Families want to be safe in the city. And in order to feel safe in the city and have access to resources to thrive, they need those educational systems in place, which are those mom and pop entrepreneur Black and brown daycares, which work with the St. Louis public schools to get those kids to those schools that their siblings are going to, and whatever else that work is doing. When we decide that we want to come in and shut down our Black and brown businesses like that, daycares, we give privatization of daycares a chance to come in, and once that starts, that's the end of public education, and then I'm gonna be looking for another job. I heard somebody say that the mayor gave us an olive branch. It's the duty of all of us elected to serve, not to throw a little change and make us all fight over it. It's the fight that we all should be fighting. But once again, investing into these schools, we ensure that every child has a fair start and an equitable education. I really appreciate this bill for the support of the home buying, but I am totally against it if we have to work with privatization to make our public education systems and our daycare systems thrive. You all have a nice and blessed evening.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jacob Sire.
Hi, Jacob Sear, 8th Ward. There's been a lot of great points tonight. But one thing that I really haven't heard is that we really have a great opportunity to begin rectifying a lot of problems that we're facing in this city. Infrastructure, public works, housing, underserved communities. They're pretty apparent to almost everyone in this room here. But what's not clear is the possibility of squandering this money, squandering it. We're all too familiar with stories of municipal projects taking forever and losing money. Do not let this money disappear into the hands of corrupt and inept contractors just because they have contacts in the city hall. Again, I do not want this money to be wasted. I do not want this opportunity to slip through our fingers. As so often happens, we oftentimes seize defeat from the jaws of victory. So keep that in mind. Let's not waste this opportunity.
Thank you.
Christopher Ortolino.
Good evening, members of the board and audience assembled. My name is Chris Adolino. I live in the 6th Ward, and I wanted to testify today in favor of the Transform Act. I think one thing we've seen in a lot of things in this city is that when money comes in, it goes to a lot of different places and not always back to the people of the city, or at least all the people of the city. And I've heard a lot of testimony about how we need money investing in buildings, investing in businesses, and that's important. Those are important parts of the day-to-day life of everybody here, but there are people in this city that we want to stay in this city, that we want to grow in this city. And if, I'm gonna put forward the radical notion that what people want from government is help to make their lives better. And I think there are a lot of pieces of this bill that start to offer that aren't just giving money to certain parts of the city to possibly grow. This is about returning very specific things like childcare, like post-secondary education that we know can improve the lives of people, not just in this generation, but going forward. And I think that because this bill does address that, and it also is not just delivering money to private companies, we have the opportunity to look to those companies and say, hey, Greater St. Louis, hey, Washington University, hey, other groups, you have money and you want to improve in the city. Let's see that from you and not just from the taxpayers of this city, and work for a solution that helps to improve the lives of all the working people in St. Louis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Arkebauer.
Hello, my name is Sarah Arkebauer. I'm in the board, and I'm here in strong support of Board Bill 153. I think I echo what a lot of people have said about the need for investing in the people of St. Louis and making sure that we have everything in the city that allows people to stay here, to thrive. But there's one element that I want to uplift in particular. The reason that I showed up so late to this meeting is because I was waiting for the bus, and it took me even longer to get here on the bus than it would have to walk, and I would have walked, except that our infrastructure on our sidewalks is so bad. And so I'm really excited about the mobility infrastructure components of this bill. I think this is a really robust bill. It's comprehensive. There's a lot to love in it, but I just wanted to uplift in particular. This is an old city. It's theoretically very walkable, but I would love to see better pedestrian infrastructure, and I'm excited about the funding here as a good way to start that.
Thank you.
That was our last speaker.
Excellent. We do not have any resolutions for review, but I guess before we end, I will ask any of those present, if any of the alders present, do you all want to provide any comment? I don't know, do we have any alders that are online?
Alderman Cone.
Alderman Cone, are there any closing remarks that you want to share today? Okay, Alderwoman Schweitzer, are there any closing remarks you'd like to share today?
Thank you all so much for coming and for being here and for sharing your thoughts. It's always really wonderful to hear directly from the public on what you all think is important. That's what we're here for. That's what we're doing. To the gentleman who suggested we should just continue to raise the rates of our water customers, you just feel the cringe across the city. But I will say that is why I'm advocating for a rate sufficiency and rate equity study as part of the master plan that the Water Division is putting in place, because I do think we need to answer that question with what kind of rates we're charging to who, when, and how they get billed, and how they get
Please
billed.
do not talk while other people are speaking.
And I do appreciate the comments about water meters and you know, I'm a big proponent of making sure that our water infrastructure has what it needs. Water is our most important asset in the city of St. Louis, and it is just crucial that we have clean water. So I appreciate both bills having that in it, and I appreciate, again, you all coming today and sharing your thoughts. Thank you so much.
President Green.
Again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. You know, we have been at this for 14 months at this point in time, and I want to commend Alderwoman Saunier for kind of leading us through this very robust public engagement process over the last year. If this is your first time at one of these hearings, welcome. If it is not, welcome back. You know, over the last 14 months, we've had nearly 16,000 people participate in this process, which is amazing. When we have looked at the RAM settlement portal that we established, you know, other cities have tried this kind of public engagement, and they've had 3,000 or 4,000 people that have decided to get involved. And the fact that we've had 16,000 is and growing, it seems like every day, is pretty amazing. You know, what I also think is amazing is going through all of the comments in the portal, hearing all of the testimony that folks have given over the years. Like, to me, it's really clear that there are three things that residents in our city want to see. They want to see strong infrastructure, they want to see strong housing and development, and they want to see strong people. Because we need the people and the workforce to support the building of the housing, of the redevelopment, of the infrastructure. And I think this gives us a tremendous opportunity to figure out how we weave all of those pieces together. And I also just want to, Alderman Aldridge left, he had to get to a neighborhood meeting, but I also wanted to give him props and just, you know, again, to reiterate that, you know, our goal is not to pit neighborhoods against kids, right? We don't need to do that. A strong city invests in everyone and all of our needs and understands the interconnectedness. And so I really appreciate the amendment that Alderman Aldridge filed yesterday that went onto this bill that prioritizes these funds to go to North Side, downtown, and southeastern. And I think that demonstrates a really strong commitment to trying to find consensus, right? We don't need two bills fighting each other. We don't need childcare groups fighting against business groups. It is possible for us to all come together and rally around one bill. I think that supports all of the things, all of the major components in our city that folks are asking for us to invest in. And I think we're getting closer to getting there. We continue to have conversations every single day about how we can, you know, make sure that we are building the best infrastructure. We are developing in ways that will be transformative. we are making sure that our workforce is supported and our kids have a great future. And so I continue to be excited by the dialogue that happens here. I think sometimes in the media it is put forth as if there's like people butting heads or whatever, and that is not necessarily the case. And so I am very much looking forward to continued dialogue, to getting us to the point where we have one bill and consensus built, to get this over the finish line so we can start to deploy these funds out into our community, not just to support today's needs, but to make sure that when we look back in 20 years, we're able to say, yeah, you know, we did this right. This actually moved the needle, supported our community. And I feel like after every hearing, we're getting closer and closer to getting there. So thank you for all of your engagement and involvement.
Thank you. I just, again, first want to thank everyone who is here for being present. I also, Grandma, before you send me a 7 text message, I just want to say hi to her. She's at bingo night. She has everybody watching tonight. I asked her to not log in and comment, but I do see it, Grandma. I'm glad you're watching. She says she's really excited too by all the presents and all of the comments, and thank you everyone at bingo night for watching excitedly with her. But I wanted to, thank everyone for being present and also just again echo what I said yesterday. I think for me, to be fully honest, the most disappointing thing about this process has been that I don't think there ever had to be competing bills. As chair of committee of the whole, had I been approached to have a conversation about some of the ideas in the other bill, which I've said on record, I think are very good. I think you can see each of us pulling from each other, and I think in the beginning we could have come out. And so today when I hear all of these comments where people are like, well, this interest or that interest, I just think that is part of how our city has gotten where it is. Like we kind of create these false binaries that either you support businesses or you support childcare, either you support downtown or you support the Central West End or you support North City. I think we've also had a history in our city, to be frank, where especially for-profit private entities act as if they are the only stakeholder at the table, and they are important stakeholders, but they are not the only stakeholder. And so for me, something that I think is exciting is as we have these hearings and have conversations, and I have had conversations with GSL, I believe we're trying to have another conversation, that it seems like we're starting to get closer to each other. But I think you should hold all of your leaders, both your public leaders and your private leaders, for being leaders and for putting you before our individual interests. And if it is about you, which is every single one of you in this room and the people, then we do everything we can to build consensus. We do everything we can to resist public disagreements. We do everything we can to resist binaries that don't exist. We do everything we can to find common ground. And what I found in my short 2 years is usually nobody gets everything they want, but there are a lot of scenarios where everybody can get something. And I think that this bill is an example. I do hear some of the points where people are saying, well, just do infrastructure and just do streets. And if we cannot dream and we have almost $300 million, then when are we supposed to dream of innovative ways to do it? And we're not even saying, for some of these ideas, we're not saying that they have to be big. We're saying, well, okay, we want childcare, but we'll just do it for city workers. And I see questions where people are saying that's okay, but I would love for you to watch during budget season. You will hear every department head talk about not only their struggle with staffing, but the struggle that they're having with the aging workforce, where they're having trouble attracting people who are younger, who want to have families. I know people have said, well, are we really losing children in our city? I would challenge that. You may not just be losing children in your city, but if the most common age where people are living in their city to have children and put children through the school system, then I would say that should take a look. So for me, I want everyone in this room to hold me accountable as a public leader, as a sponsor of the bill, to build consensus, to try to coalition build, to try to reach something with this bill that works for everybody. I don't want to use the statement these things in this bill are not for me, they're for our city, and they are things that we think not only can move us forward, but they also did involve in a public engagement process for 14 months, where many residents engaged, many residents submitted their information online, many alders went to their neighborhood meetings and gave surveys, because from the beginning I wanted this to be a process where everybody came along, every alder, the mayor's office, the president's office, the comptroller's office. And so I just want to give those comments. Thank you all for being present today. If you do have any questions about the bill, I heard some people say they were confused. Please feel welcome to email me about anything in the bill that's unclear to you. I will respond to you, and I will give you, I love policy. I will give you as detailed analysis as I can about anything. I won't speak on another bill that is not mine outside of some simple graphics, but I'm always happy to forward your email to who would be the best person to respond to that matter. And it is not too late. You can still comment on either one of these bills in the portal. This is not our final hearing, so we will have another hearing, but I really want to uplift this idea of collaboration over competition, because at the end of the day, all of us win or all of us lose, and that's just how this works, because we all live here. And with that, there are no resolutions for review. Are there any committee discussions? Acknowledgement of any written testimony that is in the portal, in the drive?
We do have, I think it was 4 written testimonies for tonight. There was some from last night, but it was 4 for tonight.
Okay, those are in the drive, and we'll be able to access that. Are there any announcements? And a motion to excuse members, I believe, a motion to excuse Alderman Browning, please. Oh, well, I'm just excusing him. I'm sorry, I'm the chair. So I will excuse Alderman Browning, and we can now adjourn this committee. Thank you. Oh, I do need a motion for
adjourn the HUD's committee.
Any objections? Motion carries.